Let's discuss. Hey everyone, it's Rachel back again with another video, and today I'm going to be checking out Chelsea Grin's album Suffer in Heaven. Suffer in Hell came out last year. The two singles off of this album, Fathomless Maw and Sing to the Grave, have been some of my favorites material from more recent Chelsea Grin, so I have very high expectations for this album. I'm really hoping the style of riffs that were shown in those two songs and really just overall what those songs sounded like kind of indicated what's to come on this album, but we are about to find out. I will link all of Chelsea Grin's social media, any sort of merch or support links for the album in the description. Other than that, I'm going to stop talking and we are going to get straight into it. Leave with us. He goes from so chaotic to low and slow. You know it's about to drop. You knew it had to drop again like that. multiple times. Orc March. Fathomless Maw is my track to beat so hard. This whole track is had that feeling like something big's coming. Oh. Man, this is mean as hell, this opening. I can't remember which single this goes into either. This and To the Grave together, not that I mean I've heard two of the non-singles off this so far, but both are, it's sounding like those two records together next to each other are gonna be, oh okay. And this I have on the channel, so I won't play the whole song in the video. Yeah, the singles got me very excited for this record. This one was my favorite of the two. Yeah, I hope to hear more like that entire Anvils. Oh. Vocals are crazy. Wow, those layers sound good. Weird, and that one is my favorite so far of the non-singles. Okay, the Mind of God.
Do you think that God can intervene in the universe as he wants, or is God too loud for the exercise?
Oh. That is a heads be ripped.
If we find the answer to that, it would be the ultimate triumph of human reason. For then we would know the mind of God.
Yhorm the Giant? Ooh. Whoa. Everything that oh, sorry. They did not let you in at that. Okay. This I also have on my channel. The two singles, like I said, I loved both of them, though I preferred Fathomless Maw. This one, when it came out, I was like, This song and Fathomless both got more plays than any one track on Suffer in Hell did, so... The end to every song was pretty much wild. Last one is next, which is The Path to Suffering. Oh. I was gonna say that flow, but I could feel that drop coming. Oh, they brought that back. Tamest outro for sure. Chelsea Grin, Suffer in Heaven. Let's discuss of an album that will be on my repeat playlist for sure, but at the same time, it feels like as we start out, Leave With Us, Orc March, they bring qualities to the table that are a bit more Chelsea Grin expectant and a bit less, I think, than what Sing to the Grave and Fathomless Maw sort of put on my radar in terms of the guitar work, the riffs, stuff like that. It's a bit different, but at the same time, they come in with that energy to start off the record, the space and the slowness and Leave With Us, that sort of chaos, and then like in the midst of all of that, they take the moments to really slow it down and emphasize the brutality, I feel like. The last half of Leave With Us really demonstrates kind of like bringing the song a level up for me and what I'm looking for from Chelsea Grin when it comes to like the stuff that is more in that sort of vein. The song definitely contains a lot less, like I said, of what really drew me to the singles, but at the same time still keeps me interested, still remains stuff that will go on the playlist for me. Probably, I think both of the opening tracks, Leave With Us and Orc March, will get less visits from me than Fathomless Maw and Sing to the Grave will continue to get as this record is now out. Those will be two tracks that I keep on rotation, that I keep running. And because they had what drew me, like, had me so interested in this album, I think they'll get more plays than these do for me, but having that, you know, that relentless kind of the Chelsea Grin sound, I would say, thundering, relentless, but a certain amount of patience about them still to give in those like low and slow moments. Orc March definitely gives the time for those like more stuttery type breakdowns and heavy moments. The middle of the song was a very like crazy point for me. I think that was like the part where the stuttering that stuck out to me the most kind of came in, and then from there it got even heavier of a track. Definitely something I'll keep on the radar, though it differs, like I mentioned. But anyway, continuing, going from that to my favorite single, Fathomless Maw. I've already said everything I need to say about that track, but that is one I will keep on rotation. I can hear it in my head just thinking about it. That's what I'm looking for. Though I think the overall release has a different vibe to it than the singles put out, and what really drew me to the singles that had me excited, it's still a release I'm happy with and that will stay on rotation for me. I think that all of the non-singles were quite strong. My favorites probably being Soul Slave, The Mind of God, and Yhorm the Giant is up there as well. I really like The Path to Suffering, but I think I'd probably pick those three. I'd be able, I think, maybe to switch out Yhorm the Giant and The Path to Suffering in that third spot. So that one's probably a little bit questionable to call this early. But after my first listen, Leave With Us, I think, sets the pace really well for the album. I think something in that vein rather than the guitar work that's displayed on... Yeah, I do think the guitar work that's displayed on Fathomless Maw and Sing to the Grave is just a little bit misleading, though those tracks will stay on repeat for me. They fit in well with the full album. I think it's not anything that's like crazy misleading. It just feels like the tone on those songs and like the overall type of riffs and stuff are just a bit different than what you see in like even my favorite, like when you listen to the driving riffs and guitar work on Yhorm the Giant, they're just way different. So it kind of goes back into that like classic deathcore style of guitar work and really sound overall as you progress through this album. But it wasn't a problem for me. Definitely not disappointed with this. As you go into Leave With Us, it gives you that space, the slowness within the more chaotic bits, the brutality. The last half of the song really like bringing it up a notch for me and kind of leveling up. It contains a lot less of what drew me to this album more so than Suffer in Hell, like I was just saying with Fathomless Maw and Sing to the Grave. Kind of, I think I don't want to say this in a way that like makes it seem like these tracks don't belong on the album or anything, but now that I've heard all of the non-singles, I do think the two chosen for singles were a bit misleading for the overall like sound of this album and for the sound of the album, not for like what the album is, for what Chelsea Grin is, just like for what was what else was in the non-singles? I think maybe one other than like, you know, the two that were chosen might have been a little better for me. And I think I was just like a tad disappointed with where it went in what I was loving the most about the singles and stuff. But I loved them for different reasons in the non-singles, so it still works out for me. But anyway, it has like that, you know, as you start with Leave With Us, it's got that like crushing sound, the energy that an opener needs still nonetheless, thundering, relentless, a certain amount of patience still in there, where I said that it like gives the room for the slowness and that sort of thing. So at the same time as it's got that like chaos, that sort of classic sound in some of the guitar work, it's got a bit of low and slow to it, a bit of space. So I like that. It's got a little bit of eeriness to it in the mood. You go into Orc March and it carries a lot of that over. It has like a bit of stuttery stuff. Like as you get into right in the middle of the song, you get the real stuttering I'm talking about before it kind of, I feel, explodes and really like finishes out in a strong way that made that track a bit more stand out to me than it would have been without everything that happens from middle of the song through the end of it. But it carries a lot of what I feel like Leave With Us put down, so I like that. Then it goes, of course, into Fathomless Maw, which was my favorite of the two singles. I just love that track, love the guitar work, the everything that's put down in that track I feel like is top tier Chelsea Grin. So needless to say, I was very happy with that. Soul Slave was the first non-single I heard that stuck out to me as probably a favorite and could be up there with Fathomless and Sing to the Grave for me. It has a little bit of like a unique sound to it at the same time as bringing in both sounds from what I've talked about thus far. It kicks in with the heaviness, but it's got a little bit of stuff going on in the background to make it feel lighter, feel a little bit of contrast. It kicks in and it has that kind of like weird vocal drop that's used like echoing throughout the track that just, it's so strange and very Chelsea Grin, Tom Barber. Darko uses some drops that are, I feel, in a much different context, since they're a bit, you know, they use those electronic elements and stuff way more than on the side that we get with what Chelsea Grin leans into. But that same sort of style, I think, with the drop, the echoes. You know, this is a release that leans into some of the like more classic deathcore sounds, but isn't like, you know, oversaturated with solos. I think that solo that you get in the Path of Suffering is very satisfying and delivers well without, because there are some albums I feel that lean into some of the classic deathcore sounds that this album does. I do think this is very it's not like an album that's directly reflective of that in all aspects. But the parts that do, sometimes I hear them very oversaturated in solos for some reason. This, not at all like that. So, sorry, I'm just trying to speed this up a little bit because I've spent so much time talking about the non-singles up to this point. But the Soul Slave, The Mind of God, Yhorm the Giant, that block of songs I feel like really kind of expands on my favorite parts of this album really well, other than the guitar work that was put down in the singles, because I do feel like that wasn't something that was super picked up on the rest of this album, but there was a lot more that was. So kind of mixing in that newer Chelsea Grin sound and like the echoes I was talking about with Soul Slave and some of the more classic sounding guitar work, and kind of wrapping those up into something more Chelsea Grin style. And then you have Sing to the Grave, which of course I love the placement with these singles. They sort of bring what I was talking about that drew me to the album so much and spread it out throughout it, because there's only 2 singles. They're pretty much on opposite sides of the record. And then going into the Path to Suffering, that track feels like it really sums up the record well. It leaves the space for the groove. It's got a lot of the display of how good Tom's vocals are. It's just a very polished record, and listening to Suffer in Hell and then Suffer in Heaven back to back, it's 2 different moods, I think, which Heaven and Hell are opposites, so I think that makes a lot of sense. But I was expecting I think a bit more opposite, with Suffer in Heaven kind of leaning into the bountier riffs with that kind of tone that you hear in Fathomless Maw and in Sing to the Grave, and just kind of a different take on the riffs. But there are a lot of bands that do that sound well. It wasn't like they were, going into uncharted territory or anything like that. So kind of swerving back into something like that isn't too problematic for me. They had other elements that were able to shine through in those parts, and that it leaned into where I wasn't expecting it. So at the same time as this was different than I was expecting going into it based off the singles, it's still something I'm going to keep on the playlist. It's still something I think I prefer over Suffer in Hell, though I do feel like with the way that Suffer in Hell, like the songs were lined up and the way that they went into one another and what they presented as a whole piece, I do think it was a bit more concise, a bit more, it flowed a bit better. But for the content of what's on the record, I think I prefer Suffer in Hell, if that makes, or Suffer in Heaven, sorry, if that makes sense. So Suffer in Hell, a bit more cohesive, a bit more flowing, I feel, but Suffer in Heaven, I think the content I prefer. Let me know what you thought in the comments. I think, like I kind of hinted at during this, what would have made this record stand out for me, be even more on repeat and stuff, would be leaning into the guitar work that was set down with the riffs in the singles. But I'm still happy with this. This is still something that I feel like all of the non-singles were strong. And we'll make it onto the playlist. For me, that chunk of songs I mentioned being my favorite 3 of the album, I think. So let me know your favorite tracks in the comments. I will link all of Chelsea Grin's social media, any sort of physical copies of the album you can get, or promotional links for the band in the description. You'll also be able to find my Linktree, which will have the invite for the Discord server, which is where the community is based for my YouTube channel. Music-related conversation unrelated to music, just a community of music lovers. Outside of that, you can also find my Patreon link, which I have been trying to offer as much as possible. I make mixtape/playlists for Tier 3. I do monthly live streams for Tier 2 and 3. I've got blooper videos that I've been working on, just a variety of different stuff that you can find listed in those tiers in the Patreon link in the Linktree in the description. As always, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it.